Hi, you're listening to the Rosenfeld Review, where we're just a bunch of blind men trying to figure out that elephant. I am blind man number one, Lou Rosenfeld, your host, and I'm here today with Etienne Fang. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I am very well here in frosty Brooklyn, and I am so looking forward to talking with you. Etienne is joined us for, I think you're the first talk on the first day of the
I
second
am.
annual Advancing Research Conference. So that would be on March 10th. And everyone listening, the beauty of the virtual conference, much to my chagrin, is you can sign up at the very last moment. So you will want to, whenever you hear this, hopefully it'll be in time to sign up for Advancing Research and hear Etienne and many other really smart people helping us figure out how we're going to advance the world of research. And Etienne is a principal researcher at Amazon, working on Amazon Search primarily, right?
Yes.
Interesting. I know a thing or two about search, and we might want to poke into that. But I think we should really talk more about what you'll be covering at the conference. And I know that really has a lot to do with the role of care and how it can, how researchers can maybe frame or even improve their abilities to lead in whatever role they're in with that superpower of sorts that researchers have. I think we're not bad at caring, are we?
No, we're not. In fact, we care a lot, not only about our work, the people and the subjects that we research, we care deeply about them. But what's really fascinating about this idea of care in research is that it's not just about what we do, the work that we do, so to speak, with users and in telling their stories and building empathy, but it's really how we use this superpower of care so everything from leading teams, sharing research, building teams, building rapport within our teams, working with stakeholders. If you're a consultant, how do you engage your clients? All of that, I think, requires a great degree of care that user researchers are really well equipped to do. And so that's what really drew me to this topic and why I wanted to share it with the advancing research audience.
So care can be many things, right? It can be, obviously empathy, and I know well from Indy Young how many flavors of empathy there are. I think we're talking
Yes,
cognitive
absolutely.
empathy primarily, but is care also, does it show up in a lot of other areas, like the care to at least come halfway to learn the language or the jargon of the person you're communicating with, to learn about their context or even their, how the world has impacted their worldview?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I think about care in research as well as in leadership is that there's a couple key components, really thinking about it from like a research perspective. Certainly empathy is probably the first word synonym that comes to mind with care, and that I feel, you know, research owns in terms of qualities and written into our job descriptions quite literally. Um, but also, I think in terms of how it parallels leadership is in how inclusive we are when we work, both in terms of making sure we're leaving no users behind, but also making sure we're leaving no team members behind. Both in terms of how we do the research, what we're researching, how we're building insights, how we're collectively arriving at knowledge. I think there's another key piece of that, which is ability to deal with ambiguity. Again, I think that is part of my current job description, and I think in many researchers' job descriptions, is this ability to hold ambiguity and still drive results. And that can happen when you're on big teams in big or small companies, just trying to understand all the different changes that are happening in the world, in their company, in terms of goals, um, et cetera, especially in these really uncertain times, as we know. But also, I think ambiguity in leadership, like things change so much within our corporations. There's so much that we always need to kind of help us understand, even while things might be uncertain and unclear. And then there's another. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, well, no, go on.
And the third piece is around authenticity. So just how can we continue to drive at authenticity when it comes to understanding users? It's really easy to kind of paint a rosy persona or a hypothesized scenario or something like that. But how can we continue to use our ability to bring authenticity not only in the work that we do as researchers, but again as leaders? How can we be authentic leaders, ones who care about the whole person?
So when you are talking about this ability or skill in care to people who are researchers, are you finding that it's easy for them to then say, "Oh yes, I have this skill or this ability or this personality trait, and I see now how I can apply it in all the ways you just described"? Or are researchers in some respects too close to their own ability to care and show empathy and so forth to step back enough that they can take advantage of it?
I don't know if you can really ever take advantage of care, to be honest. I think it's one of those qualities that
Hmm.
really is for the benefit of others as well as oneself. I think where you can care a little too much is when, particularly if the subject matter that you're researching is highly sensitive, really challenging to understand, the users that you're empathizing with and trying to help illustrate within your organizations have a lot of pain or challenges. Certainly, I think there you can you can't over care, but I think you can maybe avoid taking care of yourself. And I think that's an area where we've heard from many other researchers just who have backgrounds in social work or
Hmm.
therapy, where you as yourself have to take care of you first and foremost. Put your air mask on before your oxygen mask on before putting on the masks for everyone on your team and your you know your organization.
That's a
But
great analogy. I love that.
yeah, but I do think that I don't think you can take advantage of care. I really do think that by opening it up, particularly as we think about in leadership, it's something that I've been thinking a lot about, particularly as I've joined a new organization, Amazon, in the last and during the pandemic. So I'm one of these has left an organization, joined a new organization, and trying to learn new culture amidst working from home. Everyone's working remotely. It's a really interesting time where being distanced can certainly create some rifts. And also just reflecting on my experience, over the last 2 decades, working across different companies, working in consultancies, this element of care and how you get great work out of your team. And by doing so, I don't mean, telling people what to do, but really, how do you create that environment that inspires people to do great work? And I
Hmm.
really think that at the heart of it is care. And I've learned about it firsthand from, various companies that I've experienced currently as well as in the past. But just, how some great leaders are really able to inspire work and greatness simply through how we communicate and genuinely care. It's not just about what you say, right? It's what you do. It's how you
Right.
do it over time. It's not just at the big all hands meetings or whatever. It's daily. You're filling the pot every moment, pretty much.
Well, when I was bringing up like the idea of taking advantage of care, not so much as a like way to build oneself up or anything. It's more like
Mhm.
I just wonder if many people in research take it for granted and they don't
Yeah.
really see that as like a special characteristic that they bring to the table. And so they don't necessarily, leverage it as they could as they find themselves leading in different ways. So maybe
Yeah.
another way to look at it is if you were talking about care among researchers to non researchers, how might you describe that unique aspect of researchers and the value it brings to a situation to non researchers?
That's a great point. I think care is a genuine understanding of what makes people tick. And so caring for your 2-year-old might look very different than caring for the VP of your organization, right? So um, it's understanding what genuinely is meaningful to them and what motivates them.
Hmm.
And this stems back to some of my early professional experiences working at Cheskin, where I joined because they sort of coined this idea of meaningful experiences, and really what gets users to be loyal to companies and services and products is actually not because it's the cheapest or the fastest or the shiniest. It's actually because it deepens with a kind of a higher value in people, right?
Hmm.
So I think for me, without overthinking care and the leadership at the leadership in the leadership realm, it's genuine. It's really just thinking about what do the various people that you work with, alongside, that you serve, that you lead, what is it that really they're looking for? What's meaningful to them? And to me, that's how you are caring um, as a researcher, but also as an individual.
Oh, this is a topic that it's hard to talk about, right? Care is such a, in a way, it's abstract. It kind of runs through the course of so many human attributes and emotions. So I think it's a good point to take a break. I want to chew on this for a minute. You're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm talking with Etienne Fang, and we're going to talk a little bit more about care after the break. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If you want more, not only do we have a whole bunch of podcasts in our archive, but we have something that's very current, very alive, and very engaging for groups, and that is our communities. Rosenfeld Media runs a variety of communities that meet on a monthly basis for video conferences on a variety of topics near and dear to UX people, ranging from enterprise experience to advancing research to design and research operations. I want to encourage you to join one of our communities. Again, it is free by going to rosenfeldmedia.com/communities. Not only will you get a monthly video conference that you can listen in on and participate in, ask questions, and so forth. We'll give you access to the recordings. And for some of those communities, we're talking about dozens of recordings with really interesting presenters and facilitators. You'll also get a newsletter. You'll get access to an advice columnist. Yes, we actually are providing advice columnists for each community. And finally, if you're interested in our conferences, our communities correspond to our conferences. So you will be the first to know when programs go live, when tickets go on sale, and by the way, most of our conferences sell out, and other good things about our conferences, such as when the scholarship applications open up. So go to rosenfeldmedia.com/communities. You're going to find something that's free, something that's interesting, and it's a great opportunity to find your tribe as well. We'll see you there. You're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. We're back with Etienne Fang, and we're just kind of digging into care. And you had a good story, I think, that you wanted to share that illustrates the role of care and as an attribute that researchers have and can bring to leading.
Yeah, I think one story that I think back to is the time uh, I was at Uber in the 100% UX research organization led at the time by Molly Stevens, who is in
Is on
the
our
advancing
program.
research program. Yep.
Yeah.
I was on the leadership team there alongside others, including George Zong, who's also in the conference. And I think what was a really telling moment was when someone from an adjacent organization at Uber came to me. I was sitting there having my lunch, and he came up to me and said, "I want to know how you researchers do it. I think you guys should come and talk to our organization about what you do to create such a great culture." And it made me think a little bit about the differences between our user research culture versus this adjacent organization. Ours was incredibly collaborative. People supported one another. People celebrated each other's achievements and accomplishments. People supported one another in their challenges and their struggles, professionally, as well as, certainly in their lives outside of work. We celebrated constantly, daily, really, people's birthdays, people's Uberversaries, we called them. And it was just a really caring community. It was the kind of environment where you could reach out to anyone within our research organization and ask them for help, and they would provide it. It might take them a couple of days because everyone moved really quickly and was incredibly busy, but at the end of the day, they cared. And I was thinking about this adjacent organization, which was quite competitive. People were rather siloed, and people didn't really support one another in the same way. And it made me think, like, is this because we're researchers and we're wired to care? We're supposed to be empathetic with users and in understanding people, and therefore we're better at creating an environment that supports and cares for the people in the organization. And so that's really, has been a really profound moment for me in just thinking about how we turn our professional capabilities, professionally caring about the users who we serve, to how we care about the people that we work with, and how that can really be a strength as researchers.
Well, so obviously in that organization at Uber that you worked at with George and Molly, the people clearly bring that strength of caring. Were there any more tactical efforts that really unlocked it, like a weekly tea time, or investment in annual retreats, or something along those lines that really kind of nailed it down?
It's funny because, when we think about team culture, we, certainly now harken back to, oh, those days where we could take a ride around the Bay or
Hmm.
around, New York City, or these big blowout summits and things like that. While I think those are nice, wonderful experiences, those aren't really the ones that create that real authentic sense of care. That's more on the social fun realm. Who doesn't love, free drinks and
Hmm.
schmoozing? But I think that, again, going back to this idea of it's the little things every day that really express how you care. I'll just share an example from yesterday. I had a particularly challenging meeting that I led. And at the end of the day, my manager and I had a wonderful one-on-one meeting. And after the meeting, I reached out to him via Slack and said, "Hey, I have another question. Do you have 10 more minutes?" It
Hmm.
was 4:30, end of day. He could have easily said no, sorry. We continued to Slack. And then finally he was like, "Let's talk now." And we did. And it was way better than waiting until next Monday. And he put my mind at ease in such a way that really showed me that he cares, not just in the quality of the work, which was really what this was about,
Hmm.
but really in terms of knowing that he's got my back. And this is my manager, Alex Thayer, in head of search research at Amazon. Again, going back to this idea of, filling the bucket, certainly at that moment, he could have said, "Sorry, wait, let's wait until next Monday, Tuesday, whenever we have our next one-on-one." But instead, he took that 10 minutes out and helped me just talk through some concerns that I was having, and really helped me feel like I was on the right path. And so I think, again, professionally, yes, he's a very accomplished researcher who applies his ability to care about people in the leadership that he conveys day to day.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to dig into this topic obviously a lot more deeply at advancing research.
Mhm.
I'd like to change directions just a little bit because I know
Sure.
from your bio, obviously you're working at Amazon on search right now. In the past, you've worked on some very traditional physical consumer products, like working for Method, on Method products and Clorox. And I'm just really interested in what kind of, uh, I mean, like, are there some interesting contrasts basically between working on physical products and then working on something as uh, intangible, let's say, as search?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny. So yes, you're right. I founded the consumer strategy practice at Method Products, that eco design cleaning products company, which
Hmm.
we all know and love. And then I went over to its arch rival, Clorox, which we all know to be, the creators of bleach and actually the owners of various other brands that people don't know so much about. And then I finally made the leap to tech. And during this time, I kind of resisted jumping into the tech world. And in part because my husband has been in tech, and I felt like two of us in one family in tech was too many. But the thing that actually drew me to Uber was the fact that at the end of the day, it's delivering real world human interactions. Because while we're all working on the product itself, the app itself, at the end of the day, you're delivering a human interaction, a person getting into a car, a driver getting paid, a driver receiving a ride. All of those things involve human beings at the end, and in many instances, real people in the real world,
Hmm.
right? I think with search, it's interesting because I believe that Amazon, at its heart, at least Amazon Search, the area that I'm in, believes ourselves to be a store. Even though I think for you and I as users who, buy with one click, like it's hardly a store to us. It's a convenience, right? It's a thing that we do because it's just so easy, right? It's quite different from going to the bodega, from going to a big box retailer,
Hmm.
bricks and mortar. But I think at Amazon, we really think about the shopping experience and how it connects to the real world shopping experience. And that's actually where my real world experience of working in CPG companies has come in real handy, because at Method, at Clorox, we talk a lot about consumer decisions at shelf, and also certainly at the end of the day, what the user's decision making journey is. And I think there's a lot of parallels to be drawn between working in more traditional categories like consumer packaged goods and tech spaces. And because at the end of the day, these are users that we're talking about, these are humans that we're serving. It depends on which companies, of course, but for the world that I'm in, our end users are the customers who are shopping and buying. And so I think really traditional categories versus technology being so far apart
Hmm.
is actually not true, because really we're thinking about the end user and their desired outcome.
Well, in the bodega or on Amazon, I guess it's all finding all the way down when you get down to it.
All about finding what you want. And really what I think, this is my recent epiphany. It's not just about finding the right product for you. It's really about thinking about what it does and what its benefits are to you, right? So it's
Right.
really about this sort of transformation in thinking about the product on yourself or for your family.
Well, thanks for indulging me because anytime search comes up on my radar, I get very excited based on my past as an IA guy. And even my Wikipedia page, which I didn't create, calls me an information scientist, which I do kind of
Mm.
find funny. Anyway, but before we wrap, actually, I'd like to ask you if you could tell us a little bit about redefining having it all, a nonprofit that you started.
Yeah. So redefining how, which is both a site as well as, I have the Instagram, et cetera, it really started with my personal curiosity around women's ambition and what it means for real people. This, started when I had my second child and I left a dream job, actually Method, in order to stay at home and spend more time with the family. And even though that really only lasted a year, it felt incredibly final at the time. And this was also around the time that things like Lean In were coming onto the scene. And as much as I loved the discourse that opened up, I couldn't find it relatable because it was coming from someone who was, you know, local to me in that I'm in California and Sheryl Sandberg is in California, but hard to relate to being that she's the COO of a company and there I was, just a regular person.
Hmm.
And so I started on a quest first by interviewing women in my own circle, basically using my skills as a researcher to focus on an area and a topic that I'm really curious and passionate about, which is, again, women and what this idea of fulfillment and wholeness means. And after interviewing roughly 40 women in my life and posting them on the site and taking beautiful portraits of them, I realized that we were all very similar and that A, I knew them, so there was something in common, but B, we're all mostly professional women and how that really provided just a very common perspective. And so I decided to go around the world, basically with my work and my personal travels in 2019. 2019 it was,
Hmm.
back when we could travel. Not that long ago, but feels like ages ago now. And I racked up actually ranked hit, went around to 12 countries in 12 months and would set up basically a backdrop on street corners and post up for roughly 2 hours in each place. And I ended up having some amazing conversations, just stopping people on the street, sometimes having an interpreter or having a local translator, and being able to have these conversations with women. And, while I was doing this, I would say, my singular focus was understanding and exploring. I didn't quite know where this would lead to, but I knew that by applying my skills to something that I was really interested in, it would lead somewhere. And so I've now turned redefining having it all into a nonprofit. And so I'm working with some organizations to help tell the stories of real people and real women and in support of women's empowerment.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we'll make sure we have a link to it in the podcast description. And Etienne, it's been lovely to have you on the show. Etienne Fang, a principal researcher at Amazon, working on Amazon Search, founder of Redefining Having It All, and speaker at Advancing Research 2021, coming up March 10th through 12th. Etienne, I'm looking forward to hearing your talk there, and I know lots of other people listening are. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Rosenfeld Review, brought to you by Rosenfeld Media. If you like our show, please subscribe and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast platform. I'd love it if you tell a friend to have a listen, and check out our website for over 100 podcasts with other interesting people. You'll find them all at rosenfeldreview.com.